To create the database in Entity Framework core, we are having the migration concept. So there is the Entity Framework core migration. In migration, there are 3 steps. First, we need to define a model. The models we already define here. We are having 2 models, category and product. If you already having the existing database, so you might need to change the model. Then after this, create a migration file. This migration file we need to create by running a command add migration. Then based upon the migration file, you are having 2 options. Like directly we can uh, apply the changes to the database, or like we can generate the SQL script as well. Because sometimes it's a requirement, you need to hand over the SQL script to the production team or like to other team for doing the DB changes. So what I'm doing here, I'm just following these 3 steps for creating our database, or like for doing the changes at the database level. So right now we don't have any database with the name Entity Framework Core 9am. This database is not available. Let me show you. I'm just opening my SQL Server, and here you can see we don't have such database here. So let me open here the package manager console. This is the package manager console. Open, and here you need to run a command add dash migration, and migration you need to mention. So the migration name can be anything ABCD XYZ. So we are doing first time, that's why it is initial. So what it will do, it will first of all enable the migration. After that, it will add the initial file there with all the model changes we have in our code. So you can see it's having 2 methods, up method and down method. In up method, we are having the code which we are going to upload, like which database we want to create, or like what are the changes we want to do in the database. Those changes you will find in the up method. You can see here there is a method for creating the category table. So you can see the name is plural. Here also the name is, but here name is singular, because here explicitly we have override the rule. And what we are creating in the up method, same we are dropping in the down method. So sometimes there is a requirement to roll back the changes. So using the down method, we will roll back, and using the up method, we will upload. So we have done this one. Migration file has been created. Now we need to apply the changes to the database. So for applying the changes, same window you need to open up here, and run the command update dash database dash verbose. So verbose flag is here optional. A verbose flag is here to see the generated SQL behind the scene. The Entity Framework core will generate for doing the DB changes. So I'm just using the verbose flag here. So now I'm running it. So you can see all the steps it's showing to us, what it is following for migration. So you can see it has done all the things here correctly. So you can see it's created these script behind the scene for creating the category table, for creating the product table. You can see. Now you can check the same in your database level. So there is a Entity Framework Core 9am is my database, and these are the tables we are having. So we are having the categories, it is empty. We are having the product, it's also empty. So the database has been created. If you will look into the created column, you can see IDs here, primary key, name as varchar 50, description as varchar 250, it is not null, and category ID is foreign key. So such mappings, in fact, we have defined in our class level. You can check. So there is a product class where we just define all the mappings. And if you look into the category, so category is plural, name is varchar max, Description is also in varchar max, and category ID is primary key. But if you will look into the category class, we have not defined any mapping here using the data annotation approach. It is following the default naming convention. So everything is a default, if you will see. Here we are having another approach as well. If you don't want to follow the migration way, then add the table manually here, add the class manually here, and don't do migration. It will work fine without an issue. I'm just willing to add one more new table. So what I'm doing here, I'm just adding here a new class. I'm adding a class name, let's say user, or you can add, let's say, customer. So make it public, and here I'm just adding, let's say, customer ID, let's say name, let's say address. So let's say you want to create a table for this class as well. So I'm just adding here customer and then customers. So now you can create this table by doing the migration here. So let's run the next command, and it has migration, then migration name. So let's say migration name is update 1. Name can be anything. Let's say I'm mentioning update 1. So in this one, you can see it's added the new changes. If you will add a new column in the existing class, so that thing you will get like alter column things you will get. But here we are just adding new, that's why we are getting this one. Then update database verbose. So now you can check in migration state table, there is update 1, and here you can refresh it, and you will get here customer as well, with customer ID, primary key, name, and varchar max, addresses, and varchar max. So this way we are getting the things. So now let's say if you want to roll back. So for rollback, you need to run the command here. These are the command I'm just sharing here. So okay, it's about the script migration and all of those things. So for rollback, you have to just run the command here, update dash database, then to which point, like to which migration you want to update. If you will see, we so far we have done 2 migration, but I want to go to this stage. You can have 5 migration. So let's say from the 5th migration, you want to come to that 1. So this is the migration ID you need to copy here. Same migration ID is available here also. This is also the migration ID. And this migration ID always going to be created based upon the date time. If you will see, today we are having the 17th of March 2019. So this is the date of today as per my system. This is the time. So when you will create the next migration file after 1 minute, 2 minutes, like next day, this number would be higher. And based upon this number, the entity framework core will decide what is the latest migration file. So if the number is bigger, it means it's latest migration file. If number is smaller, it means it is the initial one migration file. So based upon this number, the entity framework code decide which migration file I need to run for doing the necessary change in the database. Make sense? So what I'm doing here, update as database. Then we need to mention the migration name, initial. Okay, and here one more thing here. Let's say if you want to check the the command. Let's say you don't know the command. As my case, I didn't mention the perfect option. So there is option in help. By looking into the help, we can see what are the various commands we can use here while the updating. So this is the way. These are the various commands you can use here with the update 1. And they have mentioned the way, let's say, how to target the migration. So this is the way. If 0, all migration will be reverted default to the last migration. this way. So these are the options like argument you can pass here from here. So I just need to mention here only this option like file name. I don't need to mention here this. So what I mention, I need to mention this way. So what it has done, the last migration, it has been reverted. If it will have 2 and 3, it will revert 2 and 3. Now if you will check in your database site, you will get only one migration here now. The last one has been reverted. Even the customer table is also be removed. You can see we don't have now customer table. We have only category in product. So this way you can roll back, and this way how the number is going to be generated and how it is working. Make sense? So let's say I want to change the column name as let's say my description, or like it should be the like category description. Okay, let's say I want to change the data type of this. So I'm just using here, let's say column. So two changes I'm doing. I'm just changing the column name. I'm just changing the data type. That is here, let's say type name varchar, let's say 250, and let's say it is required as well. For required, we need to add a namespace on this way. So what we are doing, we have done these two changes, and we have done this customer class change as well, because the update one is not used right now. So what you need to do here, if you want to delete this migration, so for deleting this migration, there is a command you need to follow here, remove migration. So if you want to see here, let's say remove dash migration, so it automatically delete the last migration whatever created. So if we remove the update one, you can see now there is no update one. It has removed my update one migration. And you know guys, every time when you are adding the migration file, when you are removing, when you are doing any change, so there is a snapshot as well. So it's having a database context model snapshot. In a snapshot, it is actually making the log of the changes what we have done in migration initial, what we have done in migration update 1, in update 2, in update 3. So this snapshot we need to update always. So that's why don't delete the migration file manually. Always delete it using the command, because this snapshot further is going to be used for generating the SQL script as well. Let's say I want to generate a SQL script. What are the changes we have done so far? Because those changes we need to update into the production server. So don't try to delete the migration file manually. Please delete through the command, because every time you have the perfect snapshot, and when you are willing to generate the script file, it will provide to us. Make sense? So you can see here it's the changes only available in initial command. Now let me show you the way. I'm just adding the one more migration update one. Name I'm putting same, because I have removed the update one migration file. Now you can see what the change it has done. It's having a method rename column, description to category description, alter column, name to varchar 250, then create table. So what are the changes you have done? All you will get in the up method, and for the rollback, this is the down method is having. Now just update it by running the command update test database. So automatically it will pick up the latest migration file, that is update one. And even you can check in the snapshot. In a snapshot, the new changes you will get. So you can see in the snapshot, this is the previous one is snapshot we are having, name, category ID, categories, and customer. So now it has done the new changes here. You can see there's a customer, it's added clearly, and it's automatically update the category from the category description. You don't need to worry about. This is the one table, the second table, this is the third table. This is for the mapping. So when you're defining the one-to-many relationship, so this is the way how it is happening. So if you will see here, it is actually here using the Fluent API approach for defining the mapping. If you will see here in this picture, there is a same method I'm using, has key, property is required, Unicode, has max length. Same if you will see it is using with many, has foreign key, has one. If you will see same it is using property, then has annotation is required, has column type. So this snapshot actually it is generating using the Fluent API syntax. And when you are willing to generate the SQL, whatever you have done so far. So for generating the SQL here, like SQL script, you need to run this command here, script dash migration. It will generate the script for all the migrations here. So what I'm doing here, let me create a script dash migrations. If you want to check the help, there is a help option. So it's mentioning here, let's say two parameters you need to mention from and to. But if you will not mention the from, it will be default to 0. If you will not mention the to, it will be default to last migration. Like if you want to generate the SQL script from initial to latest one. So just mention a script dash migration. But if you don't, then mention the initial and the last one. Let's say the as we have mentioned initial and update, it can be the update 1 and update 3. It can be let's say update 3, update 5. If you want to generate the script within a range, so range you have to mention here. So here I'm not mentioning any range. I'm just mentioning here only script migration. Actually, this option was not available in Entity Framework 6.x. It is new to the Entity Framework core. So you can see it generated the complete script for me. This is the table, this is the category, this is the product, and these are the entry into the migration history. This is the name here perfectly. So this script now you need to run onto the production machine, onto the testing machine, onto the wherever you want to migrate it. So it's giving you the experience of as you are following right now, because generally how the changes we do on the production machine, on the testing and like in the production, with the alphabet script we prefer. So this is the way to generate the script. So here in the database context, there is a one method here on model creating. There we need to define the things. Let's say for customer, if you're willing to define, I can show you here. Override. Then I can use here on model creating. And here you can define the same style as they have mentioned here for this customer. But I will not recommend this one. Just do one thing, model builder entity would be here customer, then C for customer I'm using here, and then C dot property. If you want to define the primary key, C dot has key, then C dot customer ID. Even you don't need to mention such way. For property, you have to mention here this thing, C dot name. What the name? Okay, name we are having C dot name. What you want to do here? I want to define the required. So I define here is required. It would be the not null. If you want to define the where I can use here is Unicode false, then has max length 250. So this is the way how you can define. So it is here CP, because C we already defined at the top level. So internally we cannot define. CV for customer property like this way. So this way we can define. And here it is not mandatory like you have to use the Unicode. We can use here has column name, like has column type. It is the similar way as we have done using the data annotation 250. Now don't need to mention the has max length. In one line I have done the same thing. So we are having the address. So this is the way you can use the Fluent API for define the same thing. So in Fluent API we follow such syntax. But again I have done the changes. I made the name as not null. I made the address as not null and the data type here. And these changes I have done again. So if you are not willing to put the data annotation at the class label like this way as we have done, separately you can define the things. So you don't need to the mapping and the classes. The separately we can define the things. So again just do the migration here, add migration, update 2. So as per the new changes we will get the update 2 here. You can see it's altering the column name in customer, altering the column in the customer here, just doing the changes. Then down, and then run the command update dash database. Then you will get here one more entry, update 2, and the new changes you can find out in your table. So it's customer, and these changes you will get name varchar 50, address varchar 50. Makes sense? Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's add a new project here for ASP.NET Core. I'm adding here a ASP.NET Core web application. So define application name, let's say web app. Then I'm using here MVC. So what I'm doing here, let's first of all, let's add the reference of Dell layer here. I have added the reference of my Dell project. Then I'm just going to perform the CRUD operation on the product entity. So what I'm doing here, I'm just adding here MVC controller empty. Or I can use the MVC controller with read write operation. So it will generate the create, update, delete method for us automatically. It's up to you. So let's say start with the empty. So I'm just adding here, let's say product. So what I'm doing here, I'm just willing to show the list of product here. So just do one thing, I'm just manually adding some entry here for the displaying purpose. Later on we will add from the front end. Sorry, I'm adding here a box category my box. I'm adding here some product, let's say ASP.NET Core book, my ASP.NET Core book, one, let's say 250 rupees. This is a single product I added there. So for using the database context, we need to create the object here. So let's say I'm creating the database context class object. Now please initialize it db equal to new database context. I have just initialized it. Now using the db, we will fetch the record. So let's define here where data equal to, it would be here db, then products, then there is a method select. I'm selecting all the product this way, and then convert into the list type to list, and what data is coming I'm returning from there. And guys, here to query the entity framework, so there are various syntaxes you can follow. You can follow the method based syntax, you can follow the query based syntax. If you will look into the syntax, it is a method based syntax, but same syntax I can change and to the query based. So let me show you. So in place of using this one, I can write the query, same query, let's say from P, any name you can leave here, in db dot products, then select P, and then convert into the to list, and then to list. This is the syntax we can also use. Both are equivalent, there is no difference. Even you can use one more syntax, like there is no need to mention his select method. In first case, I can write the same syntax like this way also. Don't mention select if you are selecting all the columns. Just do mention only to list. So all these three syntaxes are equivalent to each other. There is no difference here. If you want to apply the filter, then in case of filter, you need to mention here, let's say where condition. So here we need to mention where, and p dot what id, let's say greater than or like equal to 1. These are where condition you can apply. The same condition you want to apply here, I can apply here, let's say where what p dot id equal to 1. This is the style here if you are willing to use the where condition here. So it's up to you whether you are following the query based syntax, is the query based syntax, either you are following the method based syntax. Make sense? So this is the syntax I'm just using here for fetching all the product. So all syntaxes are equivalent. It's up to you what you want to use. So now here we are just fetching the list of product, and for which we need to create the product list view. So now let's add a view here, template list model class, let's say product class I'm using here, then click on that button. So it will use the scaffolding for generating the list of product. So here there is a for each loop which we are using for repeating or like iterating the list of product here. So it is delete, edit, and delete. So let's see, let's run the code, and it should work fine without an issue. So make sure you are setting the web app as a startup project, and let's run it. So I can go to here the product listing page. So far I have not mentioned anything on the underscore layout. So do mention here product index and products list. So this is my home, this is my product. If you will click here, I'm getting here the product list. Perfectly, I'm getting the record as we have in a database. So this is the way how you can fetch the record from the database. So this is for the retrieving purpose, or you can say the listing purpose. So what I need to do here, I need to create an action now for adding a new product. Return view, create template, create model class product. So there is ID, name, description, enterprise, category ID, button name I'm defining, let's say save. And for category ID, it should be a drop down list. So what I can do here, I can define a drop down list at the top level. And in place of input, we should define here a select statement. And in the select statement, I'm having ASP4. So we are willing to create a drop down list for category ID column. And there is ASP dash items. And here we should define the item here using the view back. So there is a view back, or you can use view data also. Then categories. So it is actually, it's a new list, new, select list, and here do mention the category ID, do mention the name. So sometimes unnecessary it give us the error. Now let's define its post method as well. HTTP post, and it will be here, let's say product view model. And then check here if model state dot is valid. Here we need to write the things. So for adding a new item here, so what we are using here, we are just using here add, then call the model, then db dot save changes. We are going to save the new model into the product, but make sure the every validation is passed. And after doing the save changes, we need to redirect to the action listing page. But here, when you are creating that time, we need to fetch the product list category list as well. So view back dot categories equal to db dot categories, then to list. So it will return the list of category. And by the way, it's going to fail. So we need to again bind the category list. So here also we need to bind the category list, and here also. And the same category list we are accessing on the create page using this one, ASP des items, then this new list, then value field and the text field. And here we can mention the a blank option as well. So blank option I can using here empty, and then select, and then we should define here a class as well for the UI. So as we have the class on the text box, same way class we are defining on the drop down list as well. So this is the way how we bind the drop down list. Then we have the name, category ID, everything. So category ID is actually, it's a product ID is a auto increment column. So we don't need to mention, we need to mention only name, description, unit price, that's fine. Linking we have already done here, this using this action. So it should now add a new product in the database. So let's see how it is working then. So let's go to the create page here. I forget to remove the input text box. So you can see there is a category, it's coming, it's category ID, it's coming. But if you want to change the label, so that option is also available. In the del layer, we need to change the display name for this category ID in the product class. So there is a display name which you can use for changing the display, or you can mention here there directly hard code as well, it's up to you. So display name, let's say it is category. Now it will show us the display name as category, not the category ID. So now you can see it is category, not category ID. We are having name, description, unit price. Do select a category, let's say books. I'm adding here this time as your books. Let's say 500. Let's say cloud computing. Cloud computing this way. Now just save it. So you can see here it's coming here as your book, cloud computing 500 rupees. So perfectly we are getting the data here. This time we add it from our code. Same way we can write the code for editing as well. If you want to edit any one, I'm using here integer ID in case of edit First of all, we need to get the product. So model equal to db dot products, then where, then use here p dot product id. Sorry, it is id only, not the product id, equal to id. And what is coming, and then first or default. And we need to mention the view name because I'm not willing to create the separate view for performing the edit operation. I will use the existing one. So here the view is same which we are using, and here in entity framework code there is a new method update. So you can call the update method for updating the model, and after updating just return to the index page. But as per the edit, we need to do some changes on the view page. So we need to change the title as well. So do check if model not equal to null, then use here edit, else use here create. So this is the title we need to mention here, and here also we need to mention. So when it is edit, the action would be edit here. When it is create, action would be create, because every time we need to post the data to the specified action. If it is create, we need to accept on the create action. Here post the data. If it is edit, we need to accept it on the edit action. In this way. Same way we can write the code for delete also. So delete, and in delete first find out the product whether it's available or not. If model not equal to null, then delete it db.products, then remove, then db.save changes, and finally redirect to action. Redirect to the action as index. This way. Or in case of delete, I can mention here edit as well as lead id. It's here product id. Sorry, it's id only. So id equal to item dot id, and we can do mention here the HTML attribute as well. So this is my HTML attribute where I'm mentioning on click, and it is here, let's say return confirm, and we can mention here are you sure to delete. This is the confirm box I want to show here. So let's see how it is working in case of edit and in case of delete also. So go to the products, edit. So I'm just editing its value, let's say 550. And you know guys, one thing I also missed here, when you're performing the edit operation and even when you're calling the update method, it must have the product primary key. Until it will not have the product primary key, this update method will not be work. So here we have not accepting any product ID. So what we need to mention here, we need to define here a text box for accepting the product primary key. So it is here ID. It should be here hidden field, type equal to hidden. Remove the class now. So this is required if you want to perform the update operation. And actually when you are having the ID, so in case of create, it will apply the validation. So it should be here model state, then remove error. So please remove the error for the ID here. So from here I'm just removing the error for ID. That's it. Now let's update it 500 to 550. It is 550. If you want to delete, it gets deleted now. So this is the way how it is working for create, edit, and delete. So guys, here you might be thinking, let's say if there is a requirement to update only few columns in your product table, so this method is not actually applicable. So if you're willing to update only few columns, so what approach you need to follow? You need to first of all fetch that particular record from the database. I'm just showing the way if you are willing to update few column. So db dot products, then where, then p dot product id, sorry it's id, equal to model dot id, because id we are getting from the front end now. Now whatever the column you want to update, only those columns you need to update here. Let's say I want to update here, so make sure it is here first on default, and type is also product. So data dot name I want to update, so model dot name, only name it will update. Data dot unit price equal to model dot unit price. So only these two columns it will update if you are using the, if you're willing to update only few columns. But if you're willing to update all columns, are you are having the all column information. So this is the way, because sometimes what happens, you need to update only update date, like you need to update only a particular flag. So this is the approach you need to follow. First fetch that one, then update whatever you want to update, then call the separate method. Make sense? So guys, here the CRUD operation I have done here, migration we have also done here. Next time I will show the way how we can call the procedure and function using the entity framework core.